Hello students, welcome to TSAT classes. Welcome to the classes on Indian Polity Constitution with regards to TSPSC Group 1 Mains. I am 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧. In the last class, we have discussed about chapter 2 of paper 3. Now to continue with chapter 2, let us see few more mains related questions. If you look at chapter 2, we have this in the syllabus of paper 3. Right. Paper 3, Polity, chapter 2. Fundamental rights, nature, scope, expanding horizons of fundamental rights, enforceability against the state and welfare state philosophy, distributive justice under the constitution, directive principles of state policy, rule of law and fundamental duties. In the last class, we have seen few important expected mains questions with regards to these topics. And today let us continue and see some more mains questions and their explanation in this class. Look at the first question. What are the protections available to the detained persons as per the Indian Constitution? Explain. See, our intention to bring these classes for you is for two objectives. Objective number 1, to show you the expected questions which can be asked for upcoming Group 1 TSPSC mains. 2, how a question can be asked and how the answer should be framed. What are the key points? How to write an answer? You need to follow a pattern of introduction, the subject and the conclusion part. So you need to follow this pattern. So now let us decode the answer for this particular question. This question is related to fundamental rights. This question is linked to fundamental rights. What are the protections available to detained persons as per the Indian Constitution? Explain. Now, Article 22 of the Constitution talks about certain protections available for detained persons. What is the meaning of detained? Arrested persons. Detained is nothing but arrested, taken into custody by the police. They are called detained persons. According to the Constitution of India, Article 22, there are two types of detentions. Detention are of two types. There are two types of detentions. The first one is called punitive detention. And the second one is called preventive detention. The first one is called punitive detention. The second one is called preventive detention. This is famously called PD Act. You will see this in news. Now, what is the meaning of punitive detention? Right? Arresting a person after committing crime. Arresting a person after committing a crime, meaning he has already committed a crime. So you are arresting a person. That is called punitive arrest, punitive detention. Article 22 clause 1, clause 2, clause 3 deals with the protections of punitive detention. 2. Arresting a person before committing a crime, to stop him from committing a crime, to prevent the crime. See, you are preventing a crime. You are arresting him because you might think that he is going to do a crime in the future. So the reason you are preventing him from detaining that person. Articles 22 clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7 deals with the punitive detention. Article 22 talks about the protections for two types of detentions, both the type of detentions, right? What are the protections available for punitive detention and preventive detention? Let us see. Firstly, for punitive detention. Now, what are the protections available? 1. The first protection is right to be informed. Right to be informed, meaning a person who is getting arrested should know the reason for his arrest. It is the duty of the concerned authority to inform the reason for his arrest, on what charges he is arrested. Point number 2. Right to consult the advocate. Right to consult the advocate. See, after the arrest, he has all the rights to consult his attorney, advocate for legal support. And thirdly, from the FIR is filed, from the time of the FIR, within 24 hours, a person who is arrested should be placed with the nearest court. He should be placed with the nearest court. And this 24 hours exclude travel time as well as public holidays. This within 24 hours exclude travel time and public holidays. So there are three types of protections available to a person detained under punitive charges, meaning he has already committed a crime and you are arresting him. Now let us see the protection available to the person who is arrested under preventive detention, preventive charges. Preventive detention. See, you are arresting a person even before he has committed a crime to stop the crime. 1. Right to be informed. He should also be informed on what charges you are arresting him. But in national interest, under national interest, it is not compulsory. That he should be informed. If the arrest is because of the national interest, say terrorist activities or Maoist activities, you want to arrest a person because of these reasons. So it is not compulsory for the concerned authority to inform the charges on which he is going to be detained. But if he is arrested, he has the right to consult. He has the right to consult advocate. And thirdly, within 24 hours, excluding the travel time and public holidays, he should be placed with the nearest court. But fourth one, for how many months he can be arrested is a question mark. A person arrested under PD, Preventive Detention Act, can be arrested for a minimum of 3 months, and it can be expanded to up to 2 years as discussed in Article 22 Clause 7 of the Constitution. So these are the protections available to the detained persons in India. Detention are of two types. The first one is punitive detention and the second one is preventive detention. Preventive detention is very, very important for the exam, because preventive detention misused can take away the right to life, liberty and freedom guaranteed in fundamental rights. So, preventive detention is important. Now, let us see the next question. Let us see the next question. Yes. Look at this question. Very, very important question for the exam. Elaborate the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. What you should write in the introduction? Fundamental rights are the basic rights. Fundamental rights are the basic rights guaranteed to the people, as per Part 3 of the Constitution from Article 12 to 35. From Article 12 to 35. Directive principles of state policy are the moral principles to be followed by the state discussed in Part 4 of the Constitution from Article 36 to 51. From Article 36 to 51. So, this is an introduction you need to give. Now, what is a subject you will write? The differences between fundamental rights and DPSP, right? Right. Very, very important. What is the first difference? Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, the objective of the fundamental rights is to achieve political democracy or political freedom. The objective of the DPSP, is social and economic freedom. Social and economic freedom. Point number 2. Fundamental rights are individual rights. DPSP are societal rights. They are societal rights. These are individual rights. They are the societal rights. Now, fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. DPSP are non-guaranteed, not guaranteed principles. Right? Fundamental rights are the basic rights provided to the people. DPSP are philosophical principles followed by the state. Fundamental rights are, they are enforceable directly, meaning they do not need any law or policy. But DPSP are not enforceable directly, They need a law or policy to be enforced, to be made enforced, right? Fundamental rights are compared to Magna Carta of Indian Constitution. They are compared to Magna Carta of Indian Constitution. DPSP are compared to the instruments of instructions. They are compared to instruments of instructions. Oh my God, 1 second. They are compared to instruments of instructions. Fundamental rights are inspired. They are inspired from US Constitution. DPSP are inspired from Irish Constitution. They are inspired from Irish Constitution. Fundamental rights make a man, right, confident enough and provide security. DPSP make society livable. Fundamental rights develop individual. DPSP are the foundation for governance of the country. Fundamental rights ensure freedom of an individual. DPSP ensures freedom in the society, and they are the novel principles. As said by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So this is the answer you need to write for this particular question of elaborate the difference between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Now let us go to the next question. Right. How did the right to property change its position from fundamental rights to that of a legal right? Comment. Okay. Now, right to property. In the original constitution, right to property is part of Article 19(1)(f). But presently, right to property is part of Article 300 capital A. Meaning, right to property in the original constitution was a fundamental right. Now, presently, right to property is a legal right. Right to property is a legal right. Now, which amendment act has made right to property part of Article 300 capital A? That is 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978 made right to property a legal right in India. Now, let us see the reason behind why right to property was made a legal right. Okay. You need to understand if some provisions of the Constitution for this purpose. They are Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause F and Article 31 versus versus Article 38 Clause 2, Article 39B and Article 39C. Let us understand these articles. These articles are the main reasons for right to property to become a legal right from fundamental right. What is Article 19(1)(f)? It talks about right to freedom of property of a citizen. Right to freedom of property of a citizen. And this freedom of property of a citizen, right, cannot be taken away by the state. It cannot be taken away by the state. So, right to property is guaranteed by Article 19(1)(f), which cannot be taken away by the state is Article 31 of the Indian Constitution. Now, the problem is Article 38 Clause 2, 39B and 39C talks about socialism in India. Now, what is the meaning of socialism? It is a duty of the state. It is the duty of the state to ensure equal distribution of all resources to all people. The state shall ensure the equitable distribution of resources, called socialism, as given by Karl Marx in his theory called class conflict, in the book called Das Kapital. In the book called Das Kapital, Karl Marx. Theory called class conflict. Theory called class conflict. Now, there is a clash. So, government has already recognized this clash. See, I need to bring land reforms for this purpose. I need to bring land reforms. Meaning, I need to take the excess land from the people who have more land and give it to the land and give to the person who do not have the land. Take more from the rich and give it to the poor. Take more from the rich and give it to the poor. Now, but whenever I take more land, excess land from the rich and give it to the poor, this person can go to Supreme Court under Article 32 saying that my right to property has been taken away. This is the problem. And so the reason government came with first Constitutional Amendment Act of 1951, according to which Article 31A, Article 31B and Schedule 9 was added. Schedule 9 was added. Now, according to this articles and this schedule, according to Article 31 capital A, it said, Parliament has the authority to make the laws on land reforms, and these laws made are, even though they are against the concept of the socialism, they can be permitted. To ensure socialism in India, Parliament can bring land reforms. Parliament by a law can bring land reforms. All the laws made for this purpose, all the laws made for this purpose of bringing socialism are inserted in Schedule 9. So, all the laws in related to land reforms are inserted in Schedule 9. Laws inserted in Schedule 9 are immune to judicial review. Meaning they cannot be taken to judiciary, saying that it is against Article 39B, 39C and 38 Clause 2 of the Constitution, saying that it is against the concept of socialism. So, Government of India was very clear that we got this safety, we got the safety net. The problem was, then there were many other cases where the discussion was about, can fundamental rights be amended to implement a DPSP? Is fundamental rights greater or the DPSP? Or can DPSP be amended to implement fundamental rights? Which one is the best? After thorough judgments, it said in 𝗘𝗍𝗏 𝗪𝘳𝗃 case that the Parliament should bring laws which complement both fundamental rights and also DPSP. But if the question arises who is more stronger, then always fundamental rights is only stronger, as said by Minerva Mills case by the Supreme Court. So, as on today, right to property is not considered the fundamental right. It is the legal right only. It is the legal right only. It cannot be considered as a fundamental right. So, this is the answer you need to give for this particular question. Now, we have seen 3 questions. In these 3 questions, one pattern you need to follow is answer writing. I already told you that there is a structure to be followed to write the answer. The first one is the introduction. The second one is the subject. And the third one is the conclusion. Now, what is there in the introduction part? Definitions or explanation of keywords. Explanation of keywords. In the subject, the main content should be written. Main content using pointers, using charts, using diagrams, right? Using flow charts, all should be used. And in the conclusion, you need to end the answer in a positive note or in a balanced way. This is the pattern you need to follow. This is chapter 2 of Indian Polity, paper 3. I will see you guys again in the next class with chapter 3. Till then, happy learning. Jai Hind.